Welcome back. This time round, we're going to show you inside the studio. We do things on a bit of a budget here, but that's not to say it's not functional. It is functional, but you don't have to spend the earth to do it. So I'm going to give you a bit of a tour of what we've got going on here. We'll have a look at the cameras, we'll have a look at the way it's rigged, and might give you a couple of pointers of set design. This is our studio. It's not a massive room. You'll probably see that it's an office room. You look up there, it's just a normal ceiling. There's nothing fancy in there, and we don't have the ceiling height that you would see in a normal TV studio. It doesn't stop us because it's what we've got. And as mentioned in the last video, if you haven't seen that incidentally, I'll put a link somewhere on the screen, you can check that out. But we produce an enormous amount of news, current affairs, and all sorts of TV shows for local TV audiences here in the Midlands. There are two halves to this particular studio. We've got the green screen studio, which I'll show you in a second, which is behind you. But this side is our lifestyle side, and we produce all sorts of things. At the moment, it's set up for a football phone-in show. I can't tell if it looks good through there or not, but on camera going to broadcast, it looks pretty good. But this set wasn't particularly expensive. In fact, a lot of it was beg-steeled and borrowed from bits of stuff lying around. Come with me and I'll give you an example of that. So this desk, the presenter's desk, this is actually an old IKEA work surface, which was used as, well, it was just used an edit suite desk. It's now been velcroed to the top of a standard table. This under here is a Formica work surface from a kitchen that was being thrown out. And in fact, things like the Visa mount, which would be quite expensive for a television, we've gone even cheaper there. There are just two screws that go into the Visa mount points on the back. So throughout the building of this studio, we haven't really needed to spend a massive amount of money. There are a few things you'd expect to see. So the rigging and the cabling is pretty standard, and there are a number of, well, standard looking lights. But let me show you around. So across the back here, in order to get this light up effect, these are very, very reasonably, well, quite cheap acrylic panels, and behind them there's just a couple of daylight lights in there. It should look blue on there because we balanced a tungsten in here. The rest of it, again, it's very cheap. You blow away in the wind, in fact, but it does the job and it all looks great on camera. We mentioned before about how we use the ATEM to shoot in this studio, and the aux feeds from the ATEM come through to here to feed the various different screens. We've got one behind me there and another one over there. We go over to the other side, we've got the green screen area. This is a pretty cheap green screen, but it works really well. We didn't skimp on the paint. We used Bristol VFX paint here, which keys really nicely, but it's just a big curved wall covered with some backing wallpaper, and it keys beautifully. What we do on this side is the news. We do a lot of news from in here. The green screen gives us many things. It makes it very controllable. It means we can change, well, where we are if we need to, and we can really create a lot more space than we've physically got inside the studio. Many things that we've sort of figured out along the way, or fudged or cobbled together, are things like the news desk. Now this is a purpose, either shop display counter or news desk, but we've covered it in vinyl. This stuff is pretty cheap. You can get it from your local Home Depot or B&Q in this country. And there's generally a way to overcome most of the things that you will see in a big TV studio. So, whilst we're here, you guys will want to know about the cameras that we use and how we use them with the ATEM. So if you take a couple of steps backward, I'll show you the first one. This is our camera 3 here, and in this studio, we use all Blackmagic studio cameras. These are the original 1080 cameras. Our entire workflow here is 1080. We could go 4K, but our output is standard definition, so we stay 1080. These cameras, I'm not going to do a whole review on them, but there are plenty of those around. However, for what we want, these are really good cameras. They're very cheap for a start, they're really robust, and they never break down. So we take an SDI line out of there, because there's no recorder in here, don't forget. That will feed back into the ATEM, which you've seen previously. Then there's another line which feeds back in. So if we come around here and hit the program button, we will see exactly what the ATEM is sending out at the moment. So they're gearing up for news, and that's a piece of a news package there. Hit program again, and that shows us what's in the studio. The great thing about using these particular cameras with the ATEM is the camera control. So we can adjust all the settings on the camera as you'd expect, but that's not how we use it. We do everything from the gallery. You saw in the previous video, our gallery is a one-man operation. So that means that we can't have him running in and out of the gallery. Now these cameras don't give you that filmic look. They're not large sensor, and in fact the lenses we've got on them aren't particularly great. But for what we want, they're really reliable. They're light, which is to say we can put them on fairly inexpensive tripods. So these are just your standard Manfrotto 504, 503, 501, whichever derivative you like, on, again, a pretty affordable spider dolly just for taking them around. Sound-wise, we have probably the most simple setup that we could have. So let's say there are 5 or 6 microphones in here. They're not plugged directly into the camera. They go out into the gallery where you saw the audio mixer previously. Then the output of the audio mixer comes back in and gets fed straight into one of these cameras. Again, it's pretty simple. There's very little to go wrong. We've tried to eliminate, where possible, every extra bit of gadgetry and extra bit of expense or maintenance by simplifying the process. But what we do have is full HD workflow from start to end. We have most of the things that you would expect to see in a TV studio. In terms of lighting, there are various different ways of lighting these studios, and generally you need quite a bit of ceiling height to be able to do it. As you've seen, we don't have ceiling height, so what we do have are these things, and these are effectively like dados, but they're not dados, Kinos, but they are 6-bar fluorescents. We use 6-bar, 4-bar, 2-bar, squares, rectangles, all sorts of different shapes, and these give us just enough light. You can see it's not that bright in here, but it gives us just enough light to be able to control in this small environment without having to rip the entire ceiling out and get another 5 or 6 foot. It also stays very cool in here, and we do have aircon, but in truth, we don't need it. There are lots of benefits of the way that we've rigged our studio, but the main one is that you don't need to be an expert to use it. This would work in your local church, the local TV station, a school, and in fact where this station is based is in a school. I can't really think of that many disadvantages to doing it this way. Sure, if you go to the BBC or somewhere massive, you might see some fancier kit, but the output is what matters to us, and the output, well, we've got it under control. Nothing's going to happen that'll really surprise us. And again, if you have any questions about any of the kit that we've seen, because I've not touched on the prompter and I probably won't now, but if there's anything you'd like to know, do let me know. Use the comments box below. And if you like what you see, do subscribe, share, and wave your hands in the air. That'll do for me for now. And as always, thank you for watching.